Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Brev. Welcome to another MLB The Show 21 video. In this one, I'm going to be going over my opinions of all 10 42 pre-order diamonds and telling you guys which ones I think you should take out of the pre-order pack. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out a lot. And don't forget to follow on Twitch and Twitter. Those will be on the screen in a little while. Now, I'm really stuck between a rock and a hard place with this video. I waited absolutely as long as I could, but unfortunately, they never did reveal any of the attributes for these cards before the game came out, and a lot of you guys wanted to know my opinions on who to take, and obviously you need to know that before the game comes out. So I am ranking these cards without seeing the attributes yet, which is obviously not ideal at all, but it's just a video I have to get out before launch to help you guys who are asking me. That being said, I have extensive experience using 8 out of the 10 cards. The 2 exceptions are the new legends Hank Aaron and Pedro Martinez, and I generally know how these cards are statted when they are lower overall, so I really do have a good idea of what these cards will look like. I just don't have exact attributes. The main thing that seeing the attributes would help with is with diamond fielding thresholds. So if a guy's 80 plus fielding, he's gonna have gold defense in game. If he's 90 plus fielding, he's gonna have diamond defense in game. But otherwise, I know these guys' swings very well. I know how they're statted, whether they're gonna hit righties or lefties better, and I know generally how the community feels about most of these cards. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me. I'm doing the best I can, and let's dive into the rankings. And I do want to mention as well, I'm talking about these cards in terms of competitive play. I'm ranking Ripken Jr. as the worst card, as you can see on screen, but if you're a huge Orioles fan, you've always looked forward to using a Ripken Jr. card in the game. Don't let this video deter you from taking him. I'm just ranking them based on how good I think they are in the game. So as I just said, the worst card in this pack I think is Ripken Jr. Definitely a fan non-favorite throughout the years. His swing is historically slow. He's also pretty slow in terms of speed, so even though he has high defense at shortstop, he has pretty poor range because he's kind of slow. Historically, it's very difficult to hit with this card. He should also hit lefties better than righties, which is not ideal, and that's a concept you'll hear me talk about a lot. I value hitting stats versus righties about 3 times as much as hitting stats versus lefties on this game, because that's the ratio at which you will face pitchers. You face righties about 3 times as often as you face lefties. There's also a substitute issue with Ripken Jr. There are so many options at shortstop early on this year. It's actually crazy. Historically, shortstop has been a pretty shallow position, but not this year at all. You have tons of live series options that are high diamonds, Tatis, Story, and a lot of the team affinity cards. The 42 cards associated with Stage 1, there's a ton of shortstops in there too, just Willie Adames and Bo Bichette off the top of my head just from the AL East. So the combination of it being pretty difficult to hit with this card, along with him being a defensive statted shortstop that struggles on defense with his speed, I think this is the worst option out of the bunch. In 9th, we have Babe Ruth. This could kind of surprise some of you. The only reason he's rated this low is because it says left field on his card. If this card is able to play first base, meaning he has first base as a secondary position, I would rate him a lot higher on this list, but I'm just going in assuming that he's going to be just an outfielder because that's how his cards historically have been, with the exception of last year when they give his 99 overall first base secondary. So assuming that this card can only play in the outfield, it's pretty obvious why I'm rating him so low. You're just not going to want a big bumbling Babe Ruth out there in your outfield. He's going to play terrible defense. His defense will be bronze at best, and he's going to be pretty slow considering this is a low overall card. His swing is very good in this game, and he is going to hit righties better, so that is very good for this card, but if you have to play him in the outfield, he's just not really an option as a starter. Definitely going to be an early game bench bat. Again, if he's able to play first base, he shoots way up on this list. Going to be a really good option at first base if it's possible. In 8th, we have Willie Mays. It may surprise some of my longtime viewers that I'm rating him this low because I'm a big Willie Mays fan in game, but there's a lot going on with Willie Mays being a low diamond that doesn't help him. The reason I'm rating this card so low is because I think they're going to take down a lot of what he brings to the table in terms of a 5-tool player with him being a low overall. 99 overall Willie Mays cards in the past have been awesome because they're really high speed, amazing defense, close to 99 defense, and really good hitting as well. On a lower overall diamond Willie Mays card, however, we will see probably poor stats against right-handed pitching at the plate, and maybe not even diamond defense. He may be below 90 in terms of fielding. His speed should still be above 90, so that's nice, but if you're going to use a Willie Mays card, he's really got to have 90 plus fielding and 90 plus speed. And historically, most of the community actually does not like Willie Mays' swing. He crowds the plate, his swing is kind of slow and hard to get used to, and the combination of him probably not hitting right-handed pitching very well, that's why he's rated so low on this list. In 7th, we have Bob Gibson. I honestly don't really know how to feel about this card. Year in and year out, Bob Gibson is absolutely terrible for me. However, there's a dynamic in the beginning of the game where filling out your starting rotation is pretty difficult. If you guys didn't know, in Diamond Dynasty, you cycle through 5 different starting pitchers at a time in your rotation, so filling it out in the beginning of the year with 5 cards that are all decent is usually pretty difficult. So in terms of depth to your rotation, Bob Gibson could help out a lot, but as far as the card in general, he's just really bad every single year. Very often in the past as well, his low diamond cards did not have a sinker. His pitch repertoire on his low diamonds are very often four-seam changeup, slider, curveball, which is a very basic pitch repertoire and is combined with his very basic delivery that is easy to pick up on as a hitter. They also tend to drop his velocity on his lower overall cards, so he may just top out at like 96, 97, which would not be a very good card. I personally don't want to go anywhere close to this Bob Gibson card. I think he's going to be pretty bad in game, but the issue is trying to determine whether he's going to be worse than some other options for the same price. So in summary, Bob Gibson probably pretty bad, but maybe not worse than other options in terms of stub to value ratio. In 6th, we have Jackie Robinson, who honestly could have been rated a little lower as well. He is going to bring good speed to the table and decent defense early on in the year. However, his power ratings on his low diamond cards are going to be very bad. I would imagine they won't be higher than 60. And Jackie Robinson suffers from the same supply problem that Cal Ripken Jr. does, in that there's going to be a lot of options at second base that are just better than him early in the year. Many of the shortstops I mentioned earlier when discussing Cal Ripken Jr. are able to play second base as well. This was a common theme in the meta throughout many parts of last year, where people just ran 2 shortstops at shortstop and second base, because the way cards have developed over the years for the shortstop position just means they're generally better than second base cards. Again, a decent early game option though, and we'll be able to swipe some bags for you if you can get them on base. Alright, now we're getting into the fun stuff, the top 5 and the cards that I actually think I would consider good for early on in the year. First off is Frank Thomas. This may surprise some of you guys considering all the things I discussed earlier with being able to hit righties better and so on. Frank Thomas is a bit of an exception because historically he has good enough power versus righties early on in the year and also absolutely crushes lefties. Low diamond Frank Thomas cards are generally better than low diamond cards at other positions, because the reason he's low diamond is because of fielding and speed and sometimes contact, but the power is still going to be there, and he plays a position of first base where fielding is basically irrelevant. If you guys haven't played Diamond Dynasty much, it's a running theme that Frank Thomas plays Gold Glove defense at first base. This is because you get punished a lot less at corner infield positions for having poor defensive ratings compared to other positions on the field. Frank Thomas also has a huge player model, which means he stops a lot more balls than other first basemen on auto dives and such. So long story short, he's gonna have poor defense, but you're not gonna get punished for it very much, and he's gonna bring a ton of power to the first base position for you, even against right-handed pitching, and also has an incredibly good swing for elevating the ball and creating power on this game. In 4th, our first card, who I really don't have much experience with, new legend Hank Aaron. He is rated high for several good reasons on this list, however. First off, we all know Hank Aaron had pretty consistent power numbers throughout his year. A lot of the reason he was the home run king was because he hit so many home runs consistently over a long period of time. Therefore, I'm assuming with a low diamond Hank Aaron, he is still going to have really good power. That being said though, we could still see this card have mid-60s to mid-70s speed and around silver to gold fielding. I imagine that with this being the first year that Hank Aaron is in the game, this card is going to be pretty good. If he has really poor defensive ratings and poor speed, I would then throw him in the same category as Babe Ruth and rate him a lot lower, but it remains to be seen. Regardless, Hank Aaron is going to have a huge fun factor as well. It's going to be the first time any of us are using a Hank Aaron card in the game, so even if he's not the greatest in terms of gameplay, still going to be so much fun to use, basically the opposite of a Cal Ripken Jr. card. Ripken is just so boring, man. Alright, now we're into the top 3, and honestly, 3rd place and 2nd place were very, very close to me, basically interchangeable. I do have Mariano Rivera rated 3rd. I think you could definitely make an argument for this card to be number 1 on this list. I'm going to give you guys my reasons why. The most difficult position to fill in terms of depth early on in the game cycle in Diamond Dynasty is relief pitching. There just aren't that many dominant options early on, with the overalls of everybody being very low, and oftentimes a lot of these relievers have less pitches than they will on their higher overall cards. For example, Mariano Rivera's 99 card last year had a sinker and a changeup, whereas his 87 overall card did not have those pitches. That being said, I think this Mariano card is going to be one of the best bang for your buck options early on in the year. I know a lot of people did not like his cards last year, but I actually disagree with them in that standpoint. I think it's pretty easy to hate on a reliever card because as soon as he blows one save for you, you just want him off your team. But relievers are naturally going to give up runs, and I think it's a bit of an emotional standpoint to say that that Mariano Rivera was not a good card last year. Just my opinion though. Regardless, this card should have good hits per 9, which is going to shrink your opponent's PCI and make it harder for them to make solid contact. He also obviously is going to have a cutter primary pitch with a ton of break, and I have a sneaky feeling that cutter is going to be one of the best pitches in the game this year. Just take my word for it in terms of that. But in summary, he does kind of have the opposite supply problem that a lot of the shortstops have, and that there's just not that many good high diamond relievers early on in the game cycle. I think this is a great card to throw in your bullpen early and have you closing games from day one. And for those of you wondering, his pitch mix is probably going to be cutter, four-seamer, and slider. Number 2 on this list is Griffey Jr, an absolute legend in the game. This guy's cards year in and year out just absolutely rake and play incredible defense. The best part about Griffey Jr low diamond cards as well is that he still has that amazing swing that produces great exit velocities, and he's still pretty close to a 5-tool player, just on a lesser scale. A lot of low diamond Griffey Jr cards in the past have had great speed, usually around mid 80s, and they've also had pretty good fielding, usually around mid 80s as well, which attributes to gold. He's also going to have pretty good power against righties. The one knock that low diamond Griffey Jr cards usually have on them is their hitting attributes versus lefties, but as I said earlier, you won't be facing lefties as often as you'll be facing righties. I just really think a low diamond Griffey Jr card with the swing that he has and the attributes that he usually carries is going to be an amazing option in your early game outfield, and definitely a card you can plug into your lineup for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the game cycle. When I tell you guys that Griffey Jr on this game will just hit home runs on balls that you have no business hitting out, I mean it. Truly the closest thing you're going to get to a 5-tool player in the outfield early on in the game cycle. And finally, at number 1, probably no surprise to most of you, we have Pedro Martinez. This card has everything working for it to be one of the best pitchers in the game early on, and also one of the best cards to use in terms of fun. First year for Pedro, I'm so excited that he's in the game. Let me talk about why I think this card is easily the number 1 pick out of this pack. First off, I'll go back to the starting pitcher depth dilemma that I mentioned with Bob Gibson. It's pretty hard to fill out your rotation with good diamonds early on in the year, and because you use 5 of them, it allows cards like this Pedro Martinez to be used for longer. So he may be your ace on day 1, but he's still probably going to be good enough to be your number 5 starter 3 to 4 weeks into the game cycle, so this card could legitimately be in your rotation for over a month. He's also going to have pretty close to an ideal pitch mix on this game, minus a cutter. The pitches he will probably have and that he threw historically are going to be four-seamer, circle changeup, sinker, slider, and curveball. Sinker and circle changeup together actually have the exact same break in game, but at different speeds. It's very hard to determine the difference between the two out of the hand. Combine that with a good slider and a fastball that should sit around 97-98, I would assume, for his lower tier card. This guy's going to be an absolute beast early on and a staple of your rotation for multiple weeks. And plus, it's going to be so much fun to use him since nobody has before. So that's going to do it for these pre-order diamond rankings. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me down in the comment section below. Let me know who you're taking out of the pre-order diamond choice pack. Appreciate you guys watching. Friendly reminder to like the video and subscribe to the channel for so much MLB The Show 21 content this year. Appreciate you guys. See you later.